Global Campus's webinar on how can effective quality management system support performance. I am Daisy Sendrose, your moderator for tonight's session. We are excited to have you join us for this leading edge discussion. Before we dive into the main topic, permit me to say a short spoken affirmation to center us, followed by a quick run of tonight's agenda. Divine, we ask for your wisdom as we begin this webinar. We acknowledge that we need your wisdom and insights, and we welcome your presence amongst us. Guide us in our presentations and discussion, helping us to seek what is best for all involved. We trust in your perfect wisdom and ask that you direct this webinar according to your will. In James chapter 1, verse 5, it says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him." We claim this promise as we start this webinar. Thank you for being with us always. Amen. So on the agenda tonight, we have opening remarks by Dr. Emily Dickford, Deputy Principal of the UWI Global Campus. We have special remarks by Professor Canute Thompson, Pro Vice Chancellor of the Board for Undergraduate Studies. We also have special remarks by Professor Aldrey Henry Lee, Pro Vice Chancellor of the Board for Graduate Studies and Research. And we have our presenter, Dr. Pamela Dottin, who is the Quality Assurance Officer of the Vice Chancellery. And then we'll have questions and answers, followed by closing remarks and a vote of thanks. So I would like to move on and introduce our esteemed speaker for the opening remarks, Dr. Emily Dickford, who is the Deputy Principal of the University of the West Indies Global Campus. I will start with a short biography of Dr. Dickford. Emily is a finance and accounting expert with over 30 years of experience and advanced qualifications in strategic financial management and corporate social and environmental accounting and reporting. Emily has a PhD in accounting, corporate social and environmental reporting from the University of Dundee, Scotland, 2001. She is a certified professional accountant with CPA Canada, having completed the Certified Management Accounting qualification in 2000. In 2014, Emily was assessed and granted fellowship status from CPA Canada. Emily earned an MPhil Finance from the University of Cambridge, England in 1989, and a BSc in Accounting First-Class Honors from the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill Campus, Barbados in 1986. Dr. Dickford is the Deputy Principal of the University of the West Indies Global Campus, formerly the Open Campus. She has worked with the UWI as a lecturer in accounting at the UWI's Cave Hill campus in Barbados, where she served for 17 years. Emily served as a government senator and Minister of Planning, Housing, and the Environment in the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago between the years 2007 to 2010. She has worked with the leadership firm as a consultant on strategic planning and leadership coaching. Emily is a scholarship winner with the Cambridge Commonwealth Trust, the Association of Commonwealth Universities, and the University of Dundee International Student Scholarship. Her publications and research work focus on, inter alia, critical accounting research, CSR/ESG, ISO 26000, and strategic financial management. She is a member of the Voluntary Stakeholders Global Network for ISO 26000 and recently invited by the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standard to participate in Trinidad and Tobago's National Mirror Committee in the area of governance of organizations, ISO 37000. Emily has a passion to advance responsible leadership and good governance in institutions, especially in the finance sector and among accounting and finance professionals for a just and fair society. She does this through her training interventions and pragmatic projects. An advocate for lifelong learning, Emily has earned 3 certificates from the United Nations System Staff College programs, with the latest being July 2023 for the intense 1-week synchronous course titled Governance for Sustainable Development. This allows her to competently convey up-to-date materials for training, coaching, and consultancies. She recently delivered training on sustainable ocean financing to senior public officers in Barbados and served on a panel for the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards webinar for the topic, The S in ESG, focusing on ISO 26000. From the Office of the Deputy Principal, Emily and her team obtained a grant from the Open Society Foundations for USD $139,550 for the establishment of a climate, education, literacy, and justice hub. This hub is up and running on the website of the Global Institute for Climate Smart and Resilient Development. Emily sits on the management committee of the UWI's Global Institute for Climate Smart and Resilient Development from its inception 3 years ago to present. Welcome, Dr. Dickford. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Miss St. Rose. And I'm sorry that they sent you such a long version of the bio. It was extremely long. Very pleasant good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I am pleased to provide brief opening remarks on behalf of Dr. Francis Severin, the Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal of the UWI Global Campus. This webinar is one of several engaging activities that were decided on by a team of persons, including our Guild President, Ramon Bab, our administrative assistants, Ms. Pauline Moore and Ms. Shari Yearwood, Marketing and Communication Officer, Ms. Marcia Reed, our Quality Assurance Officer, the esteemed Dr. Pamela Dottin, who's speaking this evening, and myself, in my role as Deputy Principal with oversight for quality assurance matters. Our activities included daily lunchtime webinars and discussions on quality assurance topics. These sessions were facilitated by a different Global Campus team member from administrative assistants, program managers, site heads. The engagement was rich and inclusive. There was also a call for a daily quote on quality with a brief explanation or narrative. We have some brilliant submissions. We also have in the finalizing stage a student essay competition for prizes. The theme of all activities placed emphasis on quality systems and the impact on performance. As the World Quality Week campaign states for 2024, this year's theme speaks to how quality principles drive organizations from mere compliance to outstanding performance. We at the Global Campus take this theme to heart. We want to continue to include all staff and students in our campaign to improve performance in both teaching, learning, and services for an enhanced staff and student experience. While we face challenges, we also see opportunities to innovate, in a season of multiple transformations, digital transformation, institutional transformation, and this is across the UWI as well as in our campus. We have ongoing work on the integration of artificial intelligence and all that these offer for performance enhancement. While these introduce new risks, the UWI is ready with policies on artificial intelligence and academic integrity. We plan to have a newsletter after all of these activities that will capture for posterity the excellent expressions from our staff and students. I therefore end my brief opening remarks to encourage you to engage with quality for performance improvement and to let this be a lifelong commitment for yourself as an individual and for whatever organization you serve, wherever you serve, and certainly for our precious and our UWI. So I want to welcome you to this evening's webinar. I truly look forward to hearing from Dr. Dottin. And on behalf of our principal, I welcome you all to this excellent and engaging session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dickford, for your warm opening remarks. Next, we have special remarks from Professor Canute Thompson, Pro-Vice Chancellor of the Board for Undergraduate Studies. I will now read Professor Thompson's biography. Canute Thompson is Professor of Educational Policy, Planning, and Leadership and Pro-Vice Chancellor for Undergraduate Studies at the University of the West Indies. He holds a PhD with high commendation in Educational Administration and Leadership, a postgraduate diploma in Management Studies, and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Theology from the University of the West Indies, as well as a Master of Arts degree in Moral Philosophy and Biblical Studies from the Eden Theological Seminary. He also holds certificates in Education Sector Planning and Conflict Management and is a Certified Management Consultant. In demonstration of his commitment as an academic, following the publication of his first book, Towards Solutions, Fundamentals of Transformational Leadership in a Postmodern Era in 2008, Professor Thompson has, over the period 2013 to 2024, published 6 single-authored books on subjects ranging from leadership, public policy, and educational leadership. He co-edited 3 books, edited 1, and co-authored 1. He has also published over 25 peer-reviewed journal articles and book chapters combined, and over 250 newspaper columns. Professor Thompson believes the academic is inherently and inescapably a public scholar and a social activist, and in giving expression to this belief, he is active on social media and operates his own blog called leadershipreimagination.com, where he has published over 80 opinion pieces since 2021, as well as published pieces by emerging scholars and professionals. In giving further expression to the activist role of his scholarship, Professor Thompson led a team consisting of the UWI, UNESCO, and other experts in the formation of the Caribbean Center for Education Planning, CCEP, in 2016, where he has served as director for 6 years. He also co-founded the Caribbean Leadership Reimagination Initiative, CLRI, in 2012, for which he serves as the chief consultant. He has also worked with a group of his graduate students to establish the Philosophy of Education Movement of the Caribbean, PEMCA and PEMCA Limited, where he serves as executive chair. Professor Thompson is a minister of religion in the Moravian Church in Jamaica, where he also serves as chair of the Denominations, Finance, and Property Committee. Professor Thompson's work has been recognized by his peers within the UWI community and beyond, having won several awards, including 2024 Principals Award for Most Outstanding Researcher for the academic year 2022-2023, shared with a colleague. 2024 Principals Award for Research Project, attracting the most funds in his role as team leader. 2023 Principals Award made to the CCEP for research activity, generating the most funds in his role also as project director. 2023 Principals Award made to the CCEP for research activity with the most development impacts in his role as project director. And 2022 Bronze Place winner in the 2022 Independent Published Book Awards for the book Education and Development, Policy Imperatives for Jamaica and the Caribbean. He was also the 2021 finalist in the Vice Chancellor's Award for Excellence for all-round excellent performance in outstanding teaching, outstanding research accomplishments, outstanding service to the university community, outstanding public service. He also received the Principal's Award in 2021 and 2020 for Most Outstanding Researcher. And in 2020, he also received the Principal's Award for Best Publication for the book, Reimagining Educational Leadership in the Caribbean. In 2019, he received the Principal's Award for Best Publication for the article, Leadership Behaviors That Nurture Organizational Trust, Re-examining the Fundamentals, which was published in the Journal of Human Resource Management. Welcome, Professor Thomas. You may proceed with your remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. To you, I owe a debt of gratitude. I had sent a shorter version of Profile Dr. Dickford, and something suggested that I should send a slightly longer one with a few words, but not intending for it to have been so long. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I greet my colleague, PVC Henry Lee, PVC for Graduate Studies, my colleague DCP Dick Ford, my colleague Dr. Dottin, Senior Program Officer, and everyone here, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I want to first of all congratulate the Global Campus, and more especially Dr. Dottin, the Senior Program Officer, Quality Assurance Leader for that campus, for putting on this event and for the activities that have taken place throughout the month. I trust that the impacts and consequences of your initiatives and energies will have lasting results, not only for the Global Campus, but for the entire ecosystem of our beloved university. As I pondered the contribution I would make to this conversation, the foundations of the concept of quality returned to my consciousness. And I recall in the 1990s, PVC Henry Lee, when the regional conversation on quality was gaining legs, drawing on the influence, Dr. Dick Ford, of the ISO enterprise. Back in the 1990s, I think the highest level we had gone to was ISO 14,000. But for some time we were, which I think had to do with the environment, but for a long time we were at ISO 9,000. But during that time when the quality movement was gaining legs, there were three constructs that were perhaps most well known or used to convey the meaning of quality. And the first was that quality is about standards, which then spawned the various quality standards, ISO 9000, ISO 14,000, ISO 21,000, and so on. Quality is about standards. Secondly, there was this, might I call, household fireside chat, simplified articulation and expression of quality by simply saying that quality really means it's a cut above the rest. So we talk about a quality suit or quality car or quality sheet set or a quality presentation. We mean when we say it is of a high quality, we mean that it is not ordinary. It's a cut above the rest. It stands out. It is not on the same plane with others. Right? And the third construction of quality that was common in those early days was that quality means excellence. In a way, it might be synonymous with the notion of it being a cut above the rest. But when we say the thing is excellent, we means it is virtually in a class by itself. And so the theme for this evening, which I had in front of me a moment ago, how to create an pardon me as I struggle to find out the theme. How can an effective quality management system support performance? That theme, I suggest, is asking that one question is suggesting that we should ponder what are the standards necessary to support performance, and might I say support high performance. Secondly, it's asking what does a quality management system, which is a cut above the rest, what does that look like? And to put perhaps in its simplest language, in the kind of ubiquitous term, excellence, what is excellence in effective quality management? What does excellence look like? I want to suggest that to achieve a high quality, effective quality management system and to create such a system to support high performance requires nothing less than the creation of a culture. I think, as we have been saying throughout the month rather, that quality is not an event. Quality is not an activity. Quality is not compliance. Quality is not conformance. Quality is a way of life. Quality has to do with a cultural reorientation of an organization. Thus, going back to the 1990s, while some organizations were talking about TQM, total quality management, organizations which were leaders in the field had moved to another level, talking about total quality culture, TQC, which illustrates that or sought to demonstrate that you can't have total quality management in the absence of a total quality culture. And it is culture that gives birth to behaviors, give birth to practices, and that inform policies and procedures. Policies and procedures which are built on high standards, qualities and procedures which stand out above the rest, and qualities and policies and procedures which are designed to spawn excellence. So to answer your question, Dr. Dottin, and to give my response to the theme, how can an effective quality management system support, and I want to insert high performance, I want to suggest that to do so, we must create a culture of excellence, an environment where it is natural and normal for people for students, for faculty, for administrators at all levels to perform to the highest standards, to stand out not by how sore or by how poor their performance is, but to stand out because of how exceptional and excellent their performance is. The Office of the Board of Undergraduate Studies is committed to supporting the creation of this culture, the nurturing of this culture. Might I say, is committed to continuing supporting the nurturing of this culture, the embedding of this culture in all our affairs. And to do so, I propose that we seek to be courageous in the pursuit of that culture, in the preening and pruning and manuring of that culture. We seek to be courageous in so doing. That courage will manifest itself, I posit, in the clarity with which we will define the targets we are seeking to achieve. It will involve an undying commitment, not only to doing the right thing, which was one of the taglines in the quality culture conversations, but also the commitment to continuous improvement. And I want to say that in the narratives that we held in those days, I leaned to the view of continuous improvement, whilst accepting the value of getting it right the first time. Recognize that in the imperfection and the resource constraining context in which we live, we may not get it right the first time, but it is a commitment to continuous improvement, which is founded in a capacity to acknowledge shortcomings and another form of courage, the courage to hold ourselves accountable. That continuous improvement becomes possible. And in this culture, we exercise great care for each other, particularly our students whom we serve. And finally, and critically, we are collaborators, and we recognize that it's only by collaborating that we can achieve this environmental, contextual, cultural experience where high performance is possible. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Professor Thompson, for your very detailed special remarks on the theme. We also have special remarks from Professor Aldry Henry Lee, and I will read the biography. Professor Aldry Henry Lee is the current Pro-Vice Chancellor, Graduate Studies and Research, the University of the West Indies. A professor of social policy, she was the first female university director of the Sir Arthur Lewis Institute of Social and Economic Studies, SALISES, the UWI. A sociologist by profession, she has researched and published extensively on social policy issues affecting small island developing states. Since joining the university in 1995, Professor Henry Lee has researched and published on public policy, poverty, gender, human rights, and childhood. She has conducted research for several notable agencies. These include the Canadian International Development Agency, CIDA, the Department for International Development, the Caribbean Development Bank, Pan American Health Organization, the United Nations Development Program, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, and the World Bank. She has also been involved in teaching courses in social policy, both at the graduate and the undergraduate levels. Amongst the courses that she has developed are Deviance and Conflict and Social Management, Social Inequality, Inequity and Marginalization, and Social Investment in Children. For the last 18 years, Professor Henry Lee has helped organize the annual Regional Caribbean Child Research Conference, which facilitates equal voice to adult and child researchers. In 2015, the conference produced a policy document with recommendations for the then Prime Minister of Jamaica. Much of Professor Henry Lee's research has influenced the public policy process, and she has served on several committees and boards, including the Advisory Board of the Child Development Family Services Agency, Insta Board, Jamaica, a distinguished past president, Kiwanis Club of New Kingston, Jamaica, and a Sunday school teacher at St. Peter's and Paul Church, Kingston, Jamaica. Professor Henry Lee is the recipient of several awards. She received the Mona Principal's Distinguished Researcher Award in 2003. In 2010, she won the prestigious UWI/Guardian Life Premium Teaching Award. In 2017, she led the team that received the award for the project or activity with the most developmental impact in the Faculty of Social Sciences, Mona Campus. She was also a member of research teams which won awards for projects with the most funds in the Faculty of Social Sciences, Mona Campus for the academic years 2017 to 2018 and 2022 to 2023. In recognition of her outstanding work, in 2020, Professor Aldry Henry Lee was selected for a Vice Chancellor's Award for all-round excellence. Welcome, Professor Henry Lee. You may proceed with your remarks.
Thank you so much, Ms. St. Rose, for your kind introduction. Dr. Emily Dickford, Deputy Principal, Global Campus, PVC Canute Thompson, Vice Chancellor for Undergraduate Studies, our keynote speaker, Dr. Pamela Dottin, other esteemed UWI colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is a pleasure and a privilege to bring greetings at this important webinar. Quality assurance in higher education and research lies at the very heart of our UWI mission for positive transformation of our Caribbean people. As researchers, educators, and leaders, we are entrusted with the responsibility to hold the highest standards of quality in every facet of our work. Quality assurance is not merely about meeting benchmarks or fulfilling accreditation criteria. It is about fostering a culture of excellence, integrity, and innovation that benefits our students, faculty, and our Caribbean society. Ms. Varsha Prasad, who is the Senior Program Officer at the University Office of Research, Caville Campus, and who has oversight over our University Research Ethics Committee, completed a literature review and found that several ethical breaches occur in the research process globally. These include data fabrication, falsification, deliberate misinterpretation of results, plagiarism, undisclosed conflicts of interest, the detrimental impact on human participants in the research process, lack of informed consent, lack of respect for animal welfare, misuse of research funds, and failure to acknowledge the sources of research funding. She also noted that in the process of publishing research results, there are several ethical breaches. These include authorship manipulation, self-plagiarism, text recycling, excessive self-citations, withholding components of research results not supportive of your hypotheses, predatory publishing, and inadequate respect for copyright and patented policies. These issues are serious, colleagues, and we have to continue to be vigilant and ensure that our high research standards are maintained at the UWI. So today's seminar is an opportunity to reflect on the systems and the practices that ensure the continued credibility, the relevance, and the impact of our UWI research and academic programs. It is also a chance to share insights, to address challenges, and to explore solutions together as a community committed to continuous improvement. Let us remember that quality assurance is not a static process. It involves the demands and responses to a changing world in an era of rapid technological advancements, shifting societal needs, and global competitions. The expectations placed on higher education and research institutions are higher than ever. To meet these expectations, we have to adopt a forward thinking, we have to embrace accountability, and remain steadfast in our pursuit of academic and research excellence. We at the Board for Graduate Studies and Research have embraced the challenges, and together with the Board for Undergraduate Studies, we have prepared an academic integrity policy. We have prepared an AI statement, and we are waiting to approve an AI policy. So we are very proactive, ladies and gentlemen. We are revising the research ethics policy, and we continue to host capacity building workshops for academicians and research students. As you know, research is one of the main criteria for our ranking as the #1 university in the Caribbean and among the top 5% globally. So we commit at the Board for Graduate Studies and Research to continue to ensure that our quality assurance processes in research, in teaching, and learning at the graduate level remain rigorous. And we want to thank the quality assurance officers who are doing such an excellent job. And Dr. Dottin is the Officer for Graduate Studies, and I want to commend her for all her efforts to ensure that our standards are maintained at very, very high standard. I look forward to Dr. Dottin's presentation. She is an excellent worker, an employee, a team player, and I know that her contribution will undoubtedly provide valuable perspectives and will spark engaging discussions. I encourage all of us to actively participate, to ask questions, to share our experiences. In closing, I want to express my gratitude to the organizers. Brilliant idea. To Dr. Dottin and you, the participants on this webinar. Your commitment to advancing the quality of education and research is a testament to the values that we hold dear as an academic community. Let us make the most of today's webinar by learning from each other, challenging ourselves to think critically and to recommit to excellence in everything we do. I wish you all a productive and insightful webinar, and thank you so much for inviting me to be part of such an important event. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Henry Lee. So now we will delve deeper into the topic at hand: how can an effective quality management system support performance? And I'd like to introduce our presenter, Dr. Pamela Dottin, Quality Assurance Officer, the Vice Chancellery. Dr. Dottin, who has not provided me with a biography, but I would just like to say that Dr. Dottin is an expert in the field of quality management with over 18 years of experience. And I invite you to sit back and listen to Dr. Dottin's presentation. So Dr. Dottin, you may proceed with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon to all my colleagues. Good afternoon to PVC Board for Undergraduate Studies, Professor Thompson, PVC Board for Graduate Studies and Research, Professor Audrey Henry Lee, the Deputy Principal, Global Campus, Dr. Emily Dick Ford, and all of my esteemed colleagues. if I attempt to call the names of all the persons, I know that I will forget someone, but I do welcome you to this presentation. I don't take it for granted that you're here. I think it's an honor to have you here with me tonight. As you heard, I'm going to be speaking to you on how an effective quality management system supports performance. And I'm going to delve into two main areas, broad areas. I'm going to discuss what is a quality management system. I'm going to look at the components, the principles and benefits of having a quality management system, the common challenges, because we know anytime we're implementing any sort of a process, there will be some challenges with that implementation. And I'm going to look at the steps to an effective implementation of the quality management system. But even before I start to speak to the topic at hand about how an effective quality management system can really support improved performance, we still need to consider some things. Like, for example, what is a quality management system? What does improvement in performance really mean? And how is improved performance measured? So this is some of the things we're going to consider. And perhaps even more important for us as an educational community is as I go through, I want us to be asking ourselves some questions. Do we have an effective quality management system? Do we have a quality management system? Number one, is that quality management system effective? And what is my role as an employee, as a person? Because I recognize that we come from varying institutions. So if you're from the UWI, you're asking yourselves those questions. If you're from another institution, I still want you to ask yourself those questions, because as you go away from here, I want you to really go away reflective in that you can look at the system that you have in place to see how effective it is and what mechanisms need to change. So with that being said, I will start right off by looking at discussing what is a quality management system. And when you look at the diagram that you're seeing, you'll see that the quality management system starts with customer requirements. It starts with customer requirements and it ends with customer satisfaction. Now, when we start to look at the definition for a quality management system, this is the one given by the American Society for Quality, or ASQ. They defined it as a formalized system that documents processes, procedures, and responsibilities for achieving quality policies and objectives. And in fact, it goes on to note that a quality management system helps to coordinate and direct an organization's activity to meet customer and regulatory requirements and to improve its effectiveness and efficiency on a continuous basis. So really, it's about continually doing better than you were doing before. It's about documenting those processes. It's about documenting the policies and the objectives. Similarly, when we look at the ISO 9001:2015, and this is the ISO that deals with quality management, quality assurance, they actually said that the most prominent approach to quality management system starts from actually recognizing the needs of your customers. And it refers to everything that is done as a system. And it says that documents only serve to describe the system. So in other words, when you look at here, you'll see that I'm saying that the quality management system deals with quality planning, quality assurance, quality control, and quality improvement. And that is the system. During this presentation, I'm going to be breaking down what each of those components actually entail. And we're going to be looking at how we can implement. And I see that, for example, Dashpan 2023 notes, and I quote, "A good quality management system is able to define and organize documents and other processes in a quality adhering way." In essence, a quality management system provides a structure for various functions within an organization to work in an integrated manner, ultimately delivering the best quality product and or service to customers. And it says it is the cornerstone of quality management. And we know obviously that the quality management system really relates to the overarching system that coordinates all activities and functions in an institution or organization with one aim in mind, to achieve quality. But although the aim in mind is to achieve quality, the knock-on effects really is customer satisfaction. Because we know that if our customers are satisfied, if our quality is high, our customers will be satisfied. If our customers are satisfied, we have repeat business. We have good free marketing as well. And those are all good things. So we can, in fact, I like to say all the time that we can spend $1 million in marketing, but if our quality is not good, that money is wasted. Next, I'm going to go on to look at the components of the quality management system, starting with quality planning. Now, the thing about quality planning is that is the process in which required quality standards are identified. So the first thing you need to do is to identify the quality standards that you'll be adhering to. You also start to elaborate on the quality objectives. So in other words, what do we want to achieve? Now, one of the main things to recognize is that quality planning is not done in isolation. It should be part of the overarching planning of an organization. So in other words, it should be part of the strategic planning. In other words, it should be included in the strategic planning. It is a position where you start to develop quality standards. So you can develop those standards at an institutional level. You can look outside yourself, for example, the ISO 9001 2015 or other international benchmarks for particular disciplines or operations and so on. But the point is that you're setting a standard, and you're setting a standard, and against that standard, you're setting stated objectives. And you're also going to be looking at a benchmark. So normally you look at a benchmark year and a benchmark percentage or a number or something, because one of the things that you want to come out as a result of the quality management system being in place is a mechanism for monitoring achievement of your quality objectives. You're going to also find the process for quality control. Now, I'm not going to deal a lot in the quality control as yet, because you will note from 2 slides back that one of the things that I'm going to go into in much detail is the whole concept of quality control, which is part of the quality management system. Now, quality planning also helps institutions to identify possible problems and solutions. So it's not only about identifying problems. Once you've identified the problem, what you're really supposed to be doing is articulating some form of recommendation or solution to that problem. It also allows you to identify opportunities. Now, an opportunity should be exploited for the benefit of the institution, and certainly in our instance, for the benefit of our students. It reduces the expensive reworks or redoing. You know, if we plan, and if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. So if we're planning effectively, it means then that we're considering the things that can go wrong and go right, and we are putting mechanisms in place to correct. So it's a proactive strategy that should, if done adequately, save time and save money. So when you start to think, and so I'm saying that this is planning, but when is planning used? It is really used when a service has never existed before. So for example, if we're thinking about offering a new program or service, we need to do some planning. We need to look at what the needs of the stakeholders are, what the needs of the customers, what the customers want. Sometimes the customers may not even know that they have a need. But during your planning phase and your interaction with the customer, you will get to recognize what they need. They will also get to recognize what they need. You also go into planning when the service or the process is not capable of meeting customer needs. So if we're looking at a program, we might be saying, okay, currently we have all these programs being offered, but we recognize that there's a particular labor market need that we should be meeting. So we go into the planning phase to develop that program to meet that expected need. Or it may be where something is unusual, it's rare, and you want to address it. Or the environment is unstable. Look at what happened during COVID. You had to quickly change from face-to-face to emergency remote teaching. And that meant that training had to be done. So there was some sort of planning that had to be quickly put in place, and then the training done and so on, to ensure that persons were able to deliver in that new environment. Another reason that you need for quality planning is that performance data either does not exist, or it will require extensive time and expense to collect that data. So you put something else in place instead. Now, when you start to think about why planning is important, there's several reasons, but I will just touch on 4 of them. Customer satisfaction. Once again, going back to that slide that show you where we started with customer requirements. So if we plan effectively, at the end of the day, we should be satisfying the needs of our customers. And when I speak of customers here, I want you to bear in mind that I'm speaking of internal and external customers. I'm not just speaking of our students in the case of the institution. I'm also speaking of our employees. We need to plan with our employees in mind as well. Number 2, you can get some cost savings, because it is either that you will do something and you do it wrong and have to correct it, or during the planning process, because you're able to identify the majority of areas requiring improvement, it means then that you can be more efficient and effective in the delivery of whatever that service is. And it also increases productivity or efficiency, and it improves our reputation. Remember that our stakeholders, be them internal or external, have something to say about our institutions. And we want that something that is said to be good. And we want to ensure that it's not only good, but it's continually improving. So this is why that when you spend time in the planning phase and the identification of the areas that can either strengthen or weaken your product or your service, and you address those areas, that what you should then have as a result is customer satisfaction and improved reputation. Now, the second component within the quality management system speaks to quality assurance. And I'm sure that almost all of us here have some idea of what quality assurance is. But when we look at the definition by Tony Henry, it says quality and quality assurance is about total staff involvement rather than a hierarchical top-down system imposition. So in other words, quality is everybody's business. It is about incremental quality improvement, those steps, those small steps, so that you'll be continually improving rather than a giant leap. Sometimes when we make a giant leap, we fall off or we fall into a gutter. But quality assurance is really saying steady steps, incremental steps, incremental progress. It's about passion. It's about fighting. It's about nurturing. It's about struggling. So what does this actually mean for us? We're saying it's a systematic process for determining where a service meets specific internal and external requirements. Quality assurance also establishes and maintains set requirements. So we know that we have our internal quality assurance system where we should have processes. Here at the University of the West Indies, we have a system that says, okay, for all new programs, they should be reviewed within a 5 to 7 year cycle. That is part of our quality assurance. That is part of our system. And when we have a review team in, they produce a team report which provides recommendations for how that program or discipline can be improved. Then we have a system where that is followed by an action plan saying what you will do, the steps that you will take to implement the recommendations made by the review team. And then a year later, we have an implementation plan. So you said that you're going to do X. The implementation plan then shows what you've actually done. So those incremental steps. So to have an effective quality assurance system increases customer confidence and organization credibility, and improves processes and efficiencies. So it means that it's incremental. You're getting better and you're satisfying your customers. So these customers know, okay, if I send an email to the Global Campus, or if I send an email to whatever institution, they have a an agreement that they will respond to every email within 24 hours or within 48 hours. And they know that they will get that response. Meaning that if they don't get the response, they will say, you know, this is not like the organization not to respond. And then you will get an email saying, I know this is not like you not to respond. I'm thinking you have not seen that email. Now, that is customer confidence. However, if we have set standards and benchmarks and we continually break those standards and benchmarks, that does not lead to customer confidence. In fact, that reduces the reputation of the organization. So you can see right from the beginning that it's so important to do what we say that we will do. So still looking at quality assurance. What does it do? It assists in reform activities because you've identified the areas required improvement. You're putting steps in place. It provides that structure for the improvements, those incremental steps. It helps with planning for the future because once again, once you've identified areas requiring improvement, or even once you've identified opportunities or things that you're doing well, you can continue to plan with those things in line. You correct where it needs to be corrected. You continue doing the good things where that is. And it maximizes communication. And in fact, communication is very, very important in all aspects of an organization. So if you're communicating the findings of, for example, of a review team report to all stakeholders, they will then understand why you're looking to implement the recommendations, why you're looking to change the way that you've been doing things. And obviously, because it's about data, it's about the collection of data, it means then that it informs you with the data-informed decision making. So you wouldn't be making a decision out of a gut feeling. The decision will be based on data. And a decision that's based on data in the majority of times can only be beneficial for an organization. So with that being said, I want us to briefly look at why quality assurance is important. So number one, it deals with operational efficiencies. Because you spend the time to look at every system within the organization, every process within the organization, and you critically assess and analyze and critique what you're doing, it means then that you can make it better. So you can do better than you're doing. Once again, safety and risk management. You're looking at every process within the organization from a risk management perspective. Bearing in mind that risk is not only a negative thing, risk is also about the identification of opportunities. So once again, improvement. You have your public trust and credibility, which I just spoke to. You have legal and regulatory compliance. So for example, institutions are required by law to be registered with the external quality assurance agencies. And once you're registered, you're actually showing that you've met basic quality standards, basic quality systems and structures. You have your reduced resource optimization. Now you've gone through every process within your organization. You've looked at every system and you've also looked at it critically so you know where you need to improve. And not only where you need to improve, you're actually taking the incremental steps to support improvement. And because you've picked up the fact that, for example, this process can be improved by making it more technology driven, for example, you know then that you need to implement training and development. You have to get your staff on board. You need to ensure that they're aware of how to use all the varying technologies that you may want to be implemented. So once again, improvement. And then there's this one, which is mission success. Now, every organization or the majority of organizations have a strategic plan and have strategic objectives. But the quality assurance, because you're going through this process, helps you to achieve your mission. And because of the part of the process as well, that you're looking at what you're doing, you can also be innovative. You can also adapt what you're doing to suit the needs of your stakeholders. And then we go to the third component of the quality management system, which is quality control. And there's lots of debate about whether quality control is good and whether it's bad. But quality control is really the inspection phase. So we just looked at quality assurance, and you'll see that it is proactive. It happens before. But quality control is the targeted nuts and bolts checkup of the services as it is being conducted to ensure that quality assurance plans are corresponding to the reality. So we started with making a plan. This is what we want to do. Then we put quality assurance in place. We put the systems, the structures, the objectives in place. But now we have to check to see whether or not what we said we will do, we're actually doing it, whether or not we're doing it to the level of expectation, whether or not the areas that require improvement. So it's about this inspection, it's about the measurement, it's about testing of the processes to detect and control deviation and to ensure that the desired level of quality is being maintained. So you see now that you have this partnership, if you like, between quality assurance and quality control. You have quality control being preventative, so it's putting systems in place that should prevent the bugs even. It's putting systems in place to plan it. And then you have quality control. And that is where it is detective. So this is after the point now where you're looking to see, have I done what I said I will do? You're looking to validate the actions and also to make any changes as necessary to ensure that you have quality improvement and this continuous quality improvement. So when you look at now the final component, if you like, of the quality management system, which is quality improvement, you will see that this is the use of deliberate and defined methods in continuous efforts to achieve measurable improvements in efficiency, effectiveness, performance, accountability, outcomes, and other indicators of quality in services or in processes. So really, everything that we are doing should be leading us towards quality improvement. And you'll know that sometimes we hear persons using two terminologies interchangeably. Sometimes we talk about quality improvement and quality enhancement. But I want to say to you that these two things actually mean two different things. Quality improvement is where you're aiming to meet your stated standards or those stated objectives that you would have defined from your quality planning process. Quality enhancement is once you have met those standards, you want to go over and above the standards that you've already set. So with all that being said, I've laid out to you what a quality management system is, but I want to now look at the steps in implementing an effective quality management system. And I'm going to look at 7 steps first. The design and the build. Now, before we can establish a quality management system, the institution must identify and manage various connected, multifunctional processes to help ensure customer satisfaction. Remember, the aim of a quality management system is customer satisfaction. The QMS design should be influenced by the institution's varying objectives, their needs, and products and services that is being provided. And normally, the structure that is used, certainly the structure that is used for the QMS, can be based on the Plan, Do, Check, Act, the PDCA cycle, since it allows for continuous improvement and of both a service and a product. So when you start then to look at the design, you will see that there are 2 phases, design and build. 2 phases develop the structure of the QMS, its processes and plans for implementation. Senior management should be and must oversee this portion to ensure that the needs of the institution and its customers are key drivers for system development. We want to focus in really on where we want to be and how we want to get there. So we need that top level leadership in the development and the design and the build of the quality management system. But remember, I said earlier that you can't have quality assurance, you can't have any of these things unless we have total involvement. So once we've had this design and this build, we need to start to think about deploying. So the deployment of the quality management system is best achieved through a granular approach by breaking down each process into sub-processes and educating staff. Not only educating staff, getting staff's input on the sub-processes, because in many cases, the staff know the processes better than the senior management. So you need to have their involvement. And once they're involved in the process, then you will get their buy-in and their support of the quality management system. So you want their involvement. You're going to do some education and training, and you're going to be developing your matrix at this point as well. Then you're going on to control and measure. These two areas are very important for the QMS, and they're actually accomplished through routine, systematic audits or reviews of the quality management system. So you have to be continually reviewing what you're doing, how you're doing it. Are we on track? Are there things we need to put in place? Do we need to add additional resources to ensure that we achieve our objectives? So the specifics vary now. So it means then that the quality management system that is developed, for example, for the University of the West Indies, cannot be the same quality management system that is developed for another tertiary level institution. The quality management system must be specific to the institution that is being developed for. You also, because obviously the size of the institution, the potential risk, be it good or negative, and the environment also impacts that structure, that system. Okay. You then need to think about review and improving. Review and improve details how the results of an audit or a review are handled. So there must be a system, there must be a documented system that shows how reviews will be conducted. The goals are to determine the effectiveness and efficiency of each process and how each process is helping the institution to achieve its overarching objectives, as well as to communicate these findings to the employees and to develop new best practices or new processes based on the data collected during the review. So you're using the data. You're not just keeping the data there, you're using the data to make improvement. So you'll see that I'm always speaking to continuous improvement because your quality management system speaks to continuous improvement. So when you're then thinking now about implementing this quality management system, there are additional 6 things that you must understand. The purpose of the quality management system, obviously, is to satisfy the needs of customers, to help you to achieve the mission of your organization. It is there for customization and context. It must be customized. It must be contextual to your institution. You must develop a process mapping and documentation. So you go through every process and you map each process. You document because you know that quality assurance is about documentation. You must have a risk-based thinking. So you're looking to see the areas that can cause an issue, but as you analyze the risk, you're also looking at the opportunities. You must involve your employees in engagement and training. So you're involving them from the get-go, but you're also training them so they will obviously understand the quality management system. And then my favorite one, the continuous improvement and the matrices that you will use to judge and to assess your achievement and to put measures in place to continually improve. But obviously, there is no perfect world. So in anything that you're implementing, you know that there will be some challenges. And number one challenge in any organization is normally resistance to change. And this is from your employees, sometimes from our students as well. And this is why it's so important that at every stage of your quality management system, of the development of the articulation of that system, that you involve your key stakeholders, that you get their buy-in, you get their feedback, you get them to give you information, you speak to them, that the communication lines are open so that they can understand why this system, why this structure is being changed, why the quality management system is being implemented. Then you also have the lack of top management support. Believe it or not, sometimes quality management, quality assurance is seen as a humbug almost, and sometimes you don't get that support from top management or from the leadership of the organization. So that is one of the reasons that you will see that earlier on, as I spoke to the planning and everything else, I talked about the fact that we needed leadership, we needed the management to be involved. And then there's a limited understanding of quality principles. Sometimes persons don't understand what it means, what quality means. And in fact, if I had the time to ask each person online to tell me what quality meant for them, I'm certain that we'll get a different definition from each of you, because quality means different things to different people. This is why it's so important that as an institution, we have our own stance on what quality means for us. And then there's this siloed approach. Sometimes we see quality as the responsibility of the quality assurance officer or the quality assurance unit or some entity. But quality is everybody's business. And then there's this pet peeve, inadequate documentation and record keeping. Sometimes what happens is that we have some very good practices, but we've not documented it anywhere. And what happens in those instances is that if there's a change of staff, or if someone can't come to work a particular day, it means then that the person that is stepping in or the new staff member don't have any documents. There's nothing that can show the person how to deal with a scenario or a situation. So documentation, record keeping is very, very important. So as I get towards the end of the presentation, I will now discuss how an effective QMS supports performance. And this is where I start to look at the quality principles. So we begin with customer focus. Just as we began with customer focus on the slide that you saw earlier, customer focus is important. Leadership, you need to have appropriate leadership in the quality arena. You need to have appropriate leadership for the quality management system. You need to engage the people. You need to have a process approach. Remember earlier I talked about breaking everything down into the sub processes and documented. You must have this focus on continuous improvement. It must be evidence-based decision making, because if you're collecting so much data, it means then that you should be using the data. I know in lots of cases, for example, we collect student end of course evaluations. But how do we use that information? Yes, the information may be analyzed. How do we use it? Are we using it to make informed decisions about how we deliver about course content? Or is it that the data is collected because the university says, as part of its structure, as part of its system, we must collect this end of course evaluation? But it's not about the collection only, it's about the use. And then there's the relationship management. How do we manage the relationship between our stakeholders, our internal stakeholders and our external stakeholders, to ensure that efficiency always operates within our organization? So with that being said, if we're looking at an effective quality management system that supports performance, or as PVC Thompson indicated, high performance, we need to do this through the articulation, documentation, and implementation of the quality pyramid. And you'll see that I'm showing you here the quality pyramid. And you'll see that at level 1 of the quality pyramid, it is speaking to what is to be achieved. And it's giving you some things that must come out of level 1. For example, your quality policy and quality objectives. Then also in there is your risk assessment, looking, as I said before, the areas that can affect negatively, but also your opportunity. And then there's the scope. What is the scope of your QMS? Is it the entire institution? Is it just for your department? What is the scope? And your stakeholders, the interested parties, the internal stakeholders and your external stakeholders. Then you look at level 2, who, where, when, and why. So who, the roles and responsibilities. So who are involved in this process? What are their roles? What are their responsibilities? How do they interact with the standard operational procedures? In fact, are they standard operational procedures? And if they're not, you know that at level 4, you're coming to document there. And what are the procedures that are in place? Level 3, how part? a detailed step-by-step method or checklist and guidance. So you're really taking persons through the process. And you'll see that one of the things there, you're talking about the quality procedures, the work instructions. So everything is documented so that if a staff member, as I said in the illustration before, is unable to come to work a particular day, you can go to your procedures, your work instructions, and you can see exactly what needs to be done, in what order it needs to be done, and so on. And then you have your level 4, objective evidence, your records, your forms, your records, the results, all these things go into level 4. And just because I could not make up my mind which diagram I wanted to show, I'm just showing you a little differently. The why, the policy tells you the why, the quality manual and the processes show you who is responsible, when and where. The how is shown through work instructions, guidelines, and standard operating procedures. And the evidence, or level 4, as we saw in the previous diagram, shows you the records and the forms that are being used. So with all of that being said, and last but not least, we need to look at the benefits of the quality management system. And there are 8 benefits that I've articulated here. Improved efficiencies. And I guess you can see where that improved efficiency comes from. Because from the planning stage, we started to break down into processes. And at each stage of the quality management system, we've been looking at the sub-processes. We've been assessing the sub-processes. So it means then that we can only result in improved efficiencies if once we've collected the data at the control phase, that we're implementing the recommendations, it means then that we will increase or improve our efficiency. And by increasing or improving efficiency, we will also reduce costs, because you'll have costs in man hours, you'll have costs in process times, and so on. And you will enhance customer satisfaction, because if I'm planning with the customer in mind, if I'm making sure that I'm checking to ensure that I'm doing what I said I will do, my customers must be satisfied. I should increase profitability as well. I should be, because once again, particularly for our institutions, if the word of mouth that is going up from our students is good, it means that our student numbers should be increasing. And if our student numbers are increasing, it means that we should be making more money. Once again, because of this process, we are streamlining our processes, which line up really nicely with improved efficiencies. You are eliminating waste because of the streamlining of the processes, which improve efficiencies. You're improving the quality of the service provided now to your customers, which enhance the customer satisfaction. And as a result of all of that, you have increased customer loyalty. I hope you're getting the understanding of why the quality management system, if effectively implemented, can really enhance performance or improve performance. So in closing, there are many benefits that can be derived from the implementation of an effective quality management system that directly impacts the quality of an institution's performance. During the last 30 minutes or so, I have discussed the components of an effective quality management system, including the importance of quality planning, quality assurance, quality control, quality improvement, all with the view of meeting customer requirements and ultimately leading to customer satisfaction. And remember, again, I'm going to re-emphasize that when I'm speaking to customers, I'm speaking to both internal and external. So it means then that ultimately, if we are satisfying our customers, we should have repeat custom. We should have that free marketing, which increases customers. We should have mission success, increased student numbers. We should have, and in fact, not only increase student numbers, because that's only one level, but also from the internal aspect, we should have our staff being satisfied, staff morale being improved and increased. I've also discussed the quality pyramid, which include 4 levels, from level 1, which considered what was to be achieved, to level 4, which calls us to consider the objectives, the evidence, which is vital for anything to do with quality and its assurance. Throughout this presentation, my thesis has been that for a quality management system to be effective, it must be leader-led, and employee-supported if it's to be effective. Additionally, it must be a systematic, strategic process, which is not separate and distinct, but incorporated into all essence of the organization. So with that, I want to say thank you for your kind attention, and I now pause for your questions. Thank you.
So much, Dr. Dottin, for your comprehensive presentation. The floor is now open for questions from the participants. You can type your question in the chat, or you can raise your hand to speak. We have Janelle Alexander. Please go ahead with your question or comment.
No, Miss Alexander is actually trying to join the webinar, and my hand is up.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Fox.
No,
Dr.
that's
Dickford.
okay.
Go ahead with your
So
comment or your question.
forgive me for not being on camera right now. I want to say thank you so much to Pamela for an excellent presentation. And as she was going through, I recently had a matter to deal with. And one of the things that came up on the slide about the quality management system is the issue of inadequate documentation. And I took notice of a major challenge and one that needs courage to insist on there being a documented policy on certain issues. Because sometimes you, especially when you have, and that's why it's good to have new leaders in different places. When a new leader comes into a position, they are going to encounter things that are like the norm, this is what we usually do, that kind of thing. And oftentimes when you ask a question, you seem like you're being difficult. But when I saw this inadequate documentation, the thing that came to mind is not just the courage, but that this ensures having documentation to back up a decision ensures consistency in decision making and fairness. Because if it is a subjective thing, so everybody just do it, we don't need there's no policy or whatever, it means that different people can change their minds, or the same person can have a different position on the same issue. And when you put up the slide, Dr. Dottin, on benefits of quality management systems, flowing from what I just said, I felt that one of the benefits really needs to be justice and fairness. I didn't see that, but I was trying to figure out which one of the benefits you had that we might fit that into, or do we need to then add that? Because this is how we advance knowledge as well, when we get different experiences. So I want to leave that with you. I'm here if you have any comments. So thank you so much for an excellent, thorough presentation, and hopefully we can see this again at some point. Hopefully it's being recorded, I can't tell. Yes, it is. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Dickford. And you're right, courageous leadership is vital for the effectiveness of a quality management system. And the justice, because I was speaking to data-informed decision-making, that is where the justice, I believe, will come in play. Because if it is data-informed, assuming that the data was collected using the correct protocols and everything else, you should have justice. You should have a situation where I'm not being favored because I'm Pamela Dottin, but I am being given this position because that is what the data is showing. So justice will come in under the effective use of your data. But certainly, Dr. Dickford, we can look at it some more to see if we really need to add a separate component as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that response also. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. In the chat, we have some comments saying excellent presentation. One person also wanted to know whether the presentation would be shared. And let me just read the rest of the comment. Okay, so somebody said, I appreciate the part of the presentation I got. I was a bit late and it has strengthened my resolve towards quality management systems. Okay, others said it was very clear. Okay, quite informative and realistic. I also, just before I forget, I want to extend apologies on behalf of Professor Thompson, who had to leave.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so you're welcome. So I have a question. In terms of I know Dr. Thompson mentioned it, and to a certain extent you did mention it as well. How would you say that a quality management system contributes to better decision-making processes?
Okay, so the first part of the quality management system speaks to quality planning. And as part of that quality planning, you're collecting data. And in fact, you collect data every step of the quality management system. You collect data as part of quality assurance, you collect data as part of quality control. And because you're collecting this data all the time, you should be using the data collected to make the decisions, to help to inform the decision. So in other words, as opposed to going with your gut feeling, we often have this gut feeling about why something should be done. But because you're collecting data at all these different phases of the quality management system, you don't need to depend on that gut feeling anymore. And in fact, your gut feeling might very well be right. The data might actually show you that your gut feeling is correct, but you're no longer dependent on only that gut feeling. You have the data now to be used to justify the decision that you're making. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, that was a good response. Thank you. All right, so looking at future trends now, how can technology such as AI, because we know it's the thing, and automation enhance the effectiveness of a quality management system in supporting performance?
Certainly the technology could be used as part of the data collection processes. It could be used to simplify or to some processes. So for example, if you look at minutes, so we go to several meetings. We go to all these meetings that some of them last too long. But then traditionally what we had is that someone in lots of cases who wasn't even at the meeting had to go and listen to the recording to produce the minutes of that meeting. But now we have technology where the person can have a transcript, a written transcript. They will still have the verbal one, but they can have a written transcript of that meeting. So it means then they only have to tweak here and tweak there. So it means then that person can be used more effectively in another area. So as opposed to spending 6 hours to do minutes for a 2-hour meeting, that person may now be spending 15 minutes to do those minutes. And then they go on to be more productive to do other things that they could not do because they spent so much time on the minutes. So that's a very simple example, but I'm saying that different forms of technology can help to improve and enhance the way that we do things and to make things more effective and efficient. So another example could be that we have some triggers that actually remind us, oh, today you need to prepare this, tomorrow you need, because I remember years ago, I would have applied to do my PhD at another institution. And I said to the gentleman, oh, but I can't do it right now because I'm extremely busy. We're going through our first accreditation. And he asked me, when will it be finished? And I said to him, I think I said May or March of the following year. But whatever date I said to him, the following year, at that particular day, I got a phone call. Now, I knew that it wasn't that I was that particularly important, but he had put it into a system that prompted him to give me a call. Now, remember when you look at the quality management frame, it started with customer requirements and went to customer satisfaction. Now, I felt very special that I got that call, although I didn't eventually go with the institution, and although I recognized that it was the technology. So I'm saying that technology could be used in so many good ways to help us improve what we're doing, and certainly to enhance the service that we give to our customers, both internal and external.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. We have Professor Henry Lee has a question. Go ahead, Professor.
Yes, good evening. Excuse me for not putting on my camera. I've moved my location, but excellent presentation, excellently delivered as expected. I wondered about the use of data for the decision-making process at the UWI, and I'm just getting a little specific here. What would you say if you were to rate us in terms of ABC or percentage? I don't know which one you want to use. How would you rate us in our use of data to inform our decision-making processes? And I just wondered maybe if it's that the presentation of the data, because I know as researchers, we are told that we sometimes don't present our data properly, so people can't understand what we are saying. If it is that is the way we present our data, that sometimes the persons who have to implement the recommendations that we make do not implement those. So it's just a matter of, is it that we have a fear of data? Is it that we're not presenting the data? And how would you rate the way we use data to inform our policy decision-making processes at UWI? Thank you.
And thank you very much for that, Prof. I think that the UWI, we collect a lot of data. We collect a lot of data, but I'm not convinced that we often use the data as much as we could use the data. So for example, let me go back to the very classic example of collecting student experience data, the end of course evaluation data. We collect this data at the end of every semester and during the summer as well. But I'm not convinced that the data is always analyzed for each course. I'm not convinced that once it's analyzed, that information makes its way to the necessary stakeholders so that they can make changes. I'm not convinced that that once it's made its way to the relevant stakeholders, that the necessary training and changes are made as a result of the data. So it is not that we don't collect the data. I think that we're not using the data as effectively as we should be using the data. So we're collecting it. And in some cases as well, you're right, in the analysis of the data, sometimes the data is not analyzed in a data-friendly, in a customer-friendly manner. So if we analyze our data and we are showing chi-squares and regressions and all sorts of things, now that might be very good for a researcher, and a researcher can pick up that data and run with it. But the normal run-of-the-mill person cannot pick up that data and run with it. So the data needs to be interpreted for use. And in fact, as you interpret for use as well, there need to be some recommendations coming out from the data that will help to lead persons to where they should be going to how they can improve as a result of having collected the data, of having received the data. So you're giving them recommendations. Also with the precursor that, okay, I might not implement the recommendation in the exact way that you have recommended it, but as long as, but because I'm sitting on the ground and because I understand the realities of where I sit, I can then appreciate, okay, this is what you want to achieve. The way that you're saying that I should do it may not work for this environment, but I can get to the end point in another way. So the data must also come with these recommendations. And I think sometimes we have a fear of data, a fear because, and I guess one of the things that happens as well is that there's also some frustration as well with data. So let's look at our students. So we're collecting this data all the time, and we collect data in other forms as well. And sometimes our students say, well, we've said this every semester. We've said this every year. Even with our own staff, when we collect data from our staff, they may be saying the same thing, but I've said this last year when the data was collected. I've said it the previous year. What is the sense of me completing this evaluation, this whatever it is, when the data is not being used? So I think several things are happening. We're collecting the data. We are not using the data as effectively as we should use it. And sometimes even when we are using the data, we don't inform persons of the uses that we've made of the data. So I remember years ago, former PVC bus, now Principal Cahill, made this comment. He said that we should be saying, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we have done. We said that we're going to do it, and this is what we have done, so that persons will be aware that the process for data collection is not wasted. We're actually doing something with the data. So, Prof, I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, it's
and I think he said we did it. Sorry?
Yes, definitely. Yes, I agree because, and I think our respondents, our students are suffering from fatigue too, because we go to them every minute and ask them the same questions. And students have said to us that they don't even want to answer the surveys because they notice that nothing changes. And that's why we have low response rates at the moment. So yes, excellent and continued excellent work. Thank you.
And in fact, what Prof. Landis actually said is, you said, we did. So something easy so we can show the students or whoever, you said, we did.
Yes, very true.
Okay, we have Krissa Johnny. You can go ahead with your question.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Excellent presentation. I joined in a little late, but what I gathered was very informative. With my institution, there is a unit, institutional effectiveness, which was a recently new unit. Just last week, we had interviews for quality assurance officer. And what I observed was that with the candidates, they all lacked that education background. So none of them had worked in an education setting. They were able to, most of them had knowledge of the ISO standards and so on. Mm-hmm. So in making a decision, we had to select somebody. But my question is, as a newly installed quality assurance officer, what advice would you give them? Because that person coming in has to design and build that quality management system from scratch. We have experienced all of the issues you identified in terms of persons reluctant, low response rates for both faculty and students when it comes to evaluations and surveys. So what advice would you give? I really wish that this presentation had taken place when that person, that individual was installed, so at least they would have that knowledge that you just presented. So my question is, what advice would you give or I can give to that newly installed quality assurance officer coming in without an education background?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I have a couple things. So when I first got into quality assurance, I was working at the Barbados Accreditation Council. And one of the things that we did is that we went on several study tours to external quality assurance agencies because I was an external quality assurance agency at the time. So what I would recommend is that the person be afforded opportunities to conduct study tours with institutions with established internal quality assurance systems. Like the UWI, for example, we have a system that's quite old, and I'm certain that my boss is here that will support things like that. But there's also in QAHI, the International Quality Assurance for higher education. They offer postgraduate diploma in quality assurance. And I don't remember exactly the name of it, but it looks at quality assurance within the higher education arena. So that would also be helpful.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. So, Miss Dr. Dottin, from what you said, we're seeing that if I go back to AI, I would say that, you know, the technologies like AI can certainly make the QMS work better and faster. As you said, most organizations, not just the university, but I'm sure many organizations collect data upon data upon data. And I think it was Dr. Dickford who said something about respondents are fatigued. And so I think in terms of you know, the AI, for example, can just help, you know, analyze large amounts of data very quickly. And you know, it can show patterns, it can show the problems that, you know, a human might miss. And it can also suggest, you know, fix, you know, issues early to improve the performance. You know, there are sometimes you know, you have like repetitive jobs like record keeping, like keeping records or, you know, checking for errors. The AI can, you know, and automations, they can save time and reduce those mistakes that, you know, we would make. And I think also, I'm sure it exists already, that you have, you know, that sensors and, you know, other connected devices can give live updates, you know, on the production or the service quality, helping, you know, us as humans to react immediately if something is off, if we recognize that something is off. So I don't know if you want to expand on any of those points.
I don't even know how to expand on those points at the moment, because what happened was I was getting a WhatsApp in, someone just sent me 2 questions. So I was trying to read the questions where you were speaking. So my apologies. So can I come back to your questions after I've read these 2 that I just got? And this
No,
is
that's
from
fine.
one of our participants who's on YouTube. So question number 1 was, in a rapidly evolving academic and professional landscape, how can UWI leverage a quality management system to not only enhance operational efficiency, but also cultivate a culture of continuous improvement and of innovation among students and faculty? So as I reflect on this, and you're right, we should not only be looking at operational efficiency, but this culture, the culture is so important. And it's really, how do we change our culture to ensure that everyone is committed to that continuous improvement and innovation? And for me, it means the involvement of staff and students from the planning phase. Involving staff and students at every level, allowing them to understand and appreciate the role that they play in the success of the quality management system. In fact, in the success of the organization, because sometimes we look at it, and I'll give a kind of really offbeat, silly kind of explanation. Sometimes we look down, for example, on the person that cleans the bathroom. Because I am Dr. Dottin, all this person does is clean the bathroom. But have we ever stopped to think that if that person did not clean the bathroom, that the environment will not be conducive for teaching and learning? The students will not want to be there. So really, it's about making everyone aware of the role that they play, the important role they play in the achievement of the organization's objectives. Also, getting their input as you create policies and procedures and systems and structures. So not only would they understand their input, they will feel valued as part of the process. And if I feel valued as part of a process, well, I will always want to do better. I will always want to see, if I'm doing it this way, can I do it a different way? And would the results be better than the way that I'm doing it now? I will always be trying to think outside the box as well. So empowering, if you like, empowering your staff and your students to be part of the process and to appreciate the role that they play in the mission success of the organization, is what I would say for question number 1. But then there was a second question, number 2. Given the increasing demand for accountability and measurable outcomes in higher education, what role should QS play in aligning institutional performance matrices with societal impact, particularly in addressing critical issues such as equity, employability, and global competitiveness? So my answer to that will be right from the quality planning phase, that very first phase of the quality management system, you should be setting objectives for equity. How do you want to be seen in relation to equity? Employability, are you saying that you want 90% of your graduates to be employed in the area in which they were trained? Then how are you going to monitor to see the matrix you're going to use to monitor to see that employment? Global competitive, you need to define what that means for you. What percentage of the global market are you looking to attract? You need to articulate it right at the planning phase so that in the quality assurance phase, then you will put mechanisms in place, and quality control, you'll be comparing what you'll be looking back to see whether or not the targets, the objectives that you set at the quality planning phase, whether or not they were implemented, whether or not they were achieved, and what affected the achievement. What system structures do you need to change to support achievement? And that's where the quality continuous improvement will come. So I'm saying that right from the get-go, right from the quality planning phase of the quality management system, you need to start articulating those objectives with matrix, with measurable smart matrix, that as you go through the various stages of the quality management system, you can be checking, you can be refining, and you can be ensuring that you're achieving, or you're identifying why they're not being achieved. So I hope that answered those 2 questions. Daisy, my apologies.
That's okay. So just to repeat, I'll summarize what I was saying. So I was saying that, as you mentioned, in many organizations, not just ours, we know that like organizations generally collect vast amounts of data, but often the data is underutilized. And so I was saying that technologies like AI and, depending on the type of organization, automation can change this by analyzing the data quickly, as you indicated, identifying trends and providing actionable insights. So, the tools also help organizations to make smarter decisions, to prevent issues before they occur, and also, to streamline routine or repetitive task. So ensuring that the data collected is used effectively to drive performance and improve outcomes. So I would say, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes. One of the things I want to add, particularly as it relates to artificial intelligence, is that artificial intelligence can only provide so much information. So they provide basic analysis. It provides, basic trends, but we still need the human to fully evaluate and to make those informed decisions and recommendations on how we go forward. Because the AI, yes, we can plug things in that will help it to generate information, but it could never, at least not yet, the generative AI at this point cannot generate the level of analysis that may be needed to truly make informed decisions. Yes, it can show us trends, but it can't tell us why the trends are happening, right? So it doesn't really do that qualitative bit. It's more quantitative in nature. So I think we need to have a mixture of the AI to give us the basic analysis, and then we need to have the in-depth analysis being done by a human being who then can provide and add to the recommendations and the trends that are coming up from the AI.
Okay, excellent. Okay, are there any more? Let me just see, I'm seeing a hand. Okay. All right, hand is down. Okay. All right, so I think if there are no more questions, I would just like to say that I agree with you, Dr. Dottin, that the human beings actually bring the consciousness and the emotional intelligence that complement the logical and data-driven aspects of AI in quality management systems. So while AI is excellent at analyzing the data and so on, it definitely lacks the human ability to understand the context and to make ethical, that was something one of the, somebody mentioned, ethical judgments, and to navigate those complex interpersonal dynamics. So I think together, working together, the humans and the AI can perhaps help to create a more balanced approach where the logical side of AI is enhanced by intuition and creativity and empathy for people. And, that will help to drive the decision making and provide holistic quality management systems that is centered on, what did you say? It's centered on the customer satisfaction.
Yes, yes. You start
And
with customer needs, going towards customer satisfaction.
right. Okay, awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to read this final response in a great session offered by the Global Campus. The Housing Development Corporation looks forward to more informative sessions as this aims to develop our employees and holistically the organization. So, okay, awesome. All right, so I'm gonna
just before you go on, just to let persons know, particularly those persons who join late, there is a YouTube link that has been shared. The session is on the Global Campus YouTube page, and the link has been shared in the chat. Thank you.
in the chat. Okay, so Dr. Dottin, before I go to the call on Mrs. Archie to do the closing remarks, do you want to say any final words?
Yes, thank you very much, colleagues. I just want to say thank you very much for attending. And certainly for those persons who are new to the quality assurance arena, feel free to reach out to the UWI. We're happy to support our sister institutions as they develop, because we are one educational arena within the Caribbean. So we're happy to support you. So I'm encouraging you to reach out to us and let us work together to improve the quality of the educational provision across the Caribbean and beyond. Thank you.
Okay, super. Thank you, Dr. Dottin. So I'd like to invite Mrs. Alicia Walters Archie to share some closing remarks. Mrs. Archie is the Assistant Registrar for Student Support and Services at the UWI Global Campus. The floor is yours, Mrs. Archie.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It has been a pleasure participating in this webinar. I have observed the excellent presentation and active discussion on how can an effective quality management system support performance. Therefore, I can confidently conclude that the purpose of this webinar has been accomplished. As you heard, quality management system, QMS, are crucial for institutions like Global Campus to ensure products and services meet customer expectations and comply with regulations. For the UWI in general, and the Global Campus in particular, quality is key to fulfilling our mission of providing excellent education, advancing research, and servicing our esteemed stakeholders. An effective quality management system enhances performance by improving efficiency, boosting customer satisfaction, and fostering continuous improvement. As stated in the ISO 9001:2015 standard, a quality management system, it helps ensure that organizations consistently meet customers' requirements and improve effectiveness and efficiency of their processes. I want to point out that efficiency is a crucial factor in performance, and an effective quality management system can improve it in multiple ways. By streamlining processes and eliminating waste, a quality management system helps institutions like the Global Campus to save time and resources, resulting in increased productivity and cost savings. For example, a quality management system can identify and eliminate redundant or unnecessary steps in processing a request for a student, whether it be a status letter, a finance letter, or an offer letter. Quality management system can be utilized to help improve efficiency, thereby reducing time and effort required to complete tasks. This also leads to improved employee satisfaction and morale, as they can focus on more meaningful and value-adding activities. We are grateful to Professor Canute Thompson and Professor Aldrey Henry Lee for gracing us with their presence, wealth of knowledge, and sharing their views on the topic. The contribution have been invaluable. I take from Professor Thompson's address that quality is a cut above the rest, and quality makes us stand out. Also, I would like to highlight what Professor Henry Lee mentioned, which resonated with me, that quality demands responses to a changing environment so that we can remain viable. It was mentioned that customer satisfaction plays a vital role in performance. A well-implemented quality management system enables institutions to exceed customer expectations by enforcing quality control processes and ensuring consistency in product or service delivery. That this fosters a reputation for dependability and excellence, which in turn enhances customer loyalty, generates positive word of mouth, and ultimately contributes to sustained growth and success. This is very important for growing our beloved institution, the UWI Global Campus. Dr. Dottin shared her expertise in quality assurance, providing us with a deeper understanding of the importance of an effective quality management system in supporting performance. Her presentation was both informative and thought-provoking. I take this opportunity to reinforce the points she made. Focus on where you want to be and how to get there. Quality is everybody's business. Quality management system should be tailored to suit the institution it was developed for. Continuous improvement is a core principle of quality management system, significantly impacting performance. So by regularly reviewing processes and identifying areas for improvement, a quality management system helps organizations stay competitive and adapt to changing market conditions. This results in the development of better products and services, improved efficiency, and increased customer satisfaction. Quality management system also enhance performance by promoting a culture of quality and accountability. I think this can be achieved by involving employees at all levels and providing training and resources for quality management. A quality management system fosters a sense of ownership and responsibility for the quality of products and services. This leads to increase employee engagement and motivation, resulting in improved performance and success. I hope you have found the insights shared today helpful and inspiring as you look to implement or enhance your own quality management strategies. Remember, a robust quality management system isn't just about compliance. It's about driving performance, reducing risk, and creating long-term value for both your institution and your internal and external customers. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Archie, for your closing remarks. And so to conclude, I'd like to call on Mrs. Leslie Crane Mitchell, Head of Site of the UWI Global Campus St. Lucia site, to deliver the final vote of thanks. And I'd also like to thank Mrs. Mitchell for her assistance and support. Mrs. Mitchell, you may proceed.
Speak. Good evening, everyone. Am I being heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
Unfortunately, for some reason, my video is no longer on, but I will proceed anyway. So good evening, Dr. Emily Dick-Ford. Good evening also to Professor Knut Thompson and Professor Aldry Henry Lee, and also to our special presenter, Dr. Pamela Dottin, and everyone here, all colleagues and friends joining us here this evening. As the evening's proceedings draw to a close, I have been afforded the honor of expressing gratitude to the many individuals whose participation made this evening's webinar the resounding success I am sure we all agree it was. Allow me to begin with thanking our Deputy Principal, Dr. Emily Dick-Ford, whose warm words of welcome and sage opening remarks set the tone and context for the evening's discussion. To our esteemed guests, Professor Knut Thompson and Professor Aldry Henry Lee, please accept our sincere gratitude for accepting our invitation to deliver special remarks ahead of the featured presentation. Your respective contributions, each with its own unique focus, added to the richness of the conversation on the nexus between an effective quality management system and an organization's ability to maximize its performance and to engender a culture of continuous improvement. To our featured presenter for the evening, Dr. Pamela Dottin, Quality Assurance Officer within the Vice Chancellery, and faithful friend and colleague to the Global Campus. Our gratitude goes way beyond the scope of this evening's presentation. As mentioned earlier by Dr. Dick-Ford, this evening marks the culmination of a series of informative and interactive lunchtime webinars and other activities conceptualized by a team of enthusiastic colleagues, including Dr. Dottin, from across the Global Campus in celebration of World Quality Week 2024. Dr. Dottin, please accept our heartfelt gratitude for the time and effort you put into this evening's presentation. It was an excellent presentation. Your dedication is all the more appreciated given that you're supposed to be on leave. Your perspective delivered here this evening has truly enriched our understanding and, in a very practical sense, of how an effective quality management system can help support and, by extension, improve performance within our respective workplaces. I am certain that I do not only speak for myself when I say that we will all return to our workplaces better informed and eager to explore further the advice gleaned from your presentation this evening. To Mrs. Alicia Walters Archie, thank you for so ably wrapping up and closing out this evening's discussion post Q&A and driving home the key points raised during the evening. Special thanks to our moderator for the evening, Ms. Daisy St. Rose. Of course, I may be biased, but I think that we can all agree that much gratitude is owed for the efficient and gracious manner with which she kept the event moving smoothly along and for her management of the Q&A segment of the evening. So often at events such as these, we forget that in order for our presentations to be successful, there are always those unseen persons working in the background. And so tonight, I thank all of our technical staff, and in particular, Mr. Patrick Johnson, who took us through our paces earlier this evening to ensure that there would be no technical glitches. I'm sure the irony is not lost. We are also indebted to the Marketing and Communications Unit for all of the work that went into ensuring that our wider UWI community and other stakeholders were invited to attend. And last, but by no means least, we thank you, our online audience, especially our UWI colleagues joining us here this evening. Without your presence here this evening, our labor would all have been in vain. Thank you for taking the time to join us here, and I am sure you will agree that it was time well spent. I am certain that there will be many other opportunities to view the presentation. I encourage you to share the link with as many other people as possible once it is posted. And so once again, I thank you and now hand you back over to our moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much again, Mrs. Mitchell. I would just like to reiterate that you can find the link to the session on the YouTube page. It's in the chat at 7:49 p.m. And so I want to wish each and every one of you still here a peaceful night's rest filled with divine light, love, joy, and every good blessing. Thank you so much for listening. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Casey, for
Bye.
excellent
Yeah.
moderation.
Good
Thank
night.
you, Pamela. Excellent. Thank you, Leslie and Alicia. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.